Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and my special guest this week is Eloy Lasanta. He is the owner of Third Eye Games, a man of many talents, and someone who's about to be teaching a class at Central Michigan University, which we'll talk about shortly. How you doing, Eloy?
I am doing very good, Liz. Thank you so much for asking and for having me here. This has been a dream of mine to be on your show for many, many days.
I was gonna say, but no, I'm super happy to have you on. And the first thing I'll talk about in lieu of an ad today, because Central Michigan University's
Yes.
Center for Learning Through Games and Simulations does sponsor this podcast. Eloy, you are teaching a class for them, and it's going to
Yes.
be awesome. So why don't you give us the rundown of what it is so people can know who you are, what you're teaching, and how it's going to be.
Definitely. I mean, oh gosh, there's so much to discuss because we've been actually in the planning stages of this for so long. Um, and oh gosh, so Central Michigan University and Gen Con, which is very cool to have such a huge organization kind of behind us and really kind of pushing us forward. And making it so that people even know that we're doing this thing. But just the fact that we are putting something together at a university level of how we can kind of introduce game design to the masses, and make it so that anybody could come in and not only learn how to do game design effectively, but they also have the ability to come in and learn how these skills can apply to other things in their life. So that's actually a huge part of what we're doing because we're still currently uh, working on the syllabus and trying to get all of that down. But the name of it is the art of game crafting for your classroom, boardroom, or game night. Now, game night's obviously where I specialize, um, but I'm working with Andrew DaVinci. And the two of us are working on the syllabus so that we can make sure that it expands and it does everything that we want it to do. But, it's basically going to bring you through everything from even just what is an RPG and how does it even work to how do you design your own, how do setting and elements and mechanics kind of work together, what's the end result, how do you present that end result, just everything from the ground up in terms of game design. And this honestly has been one of those things that I've always wanted to do. So when I was hooked up with Central Michigan University, my name came up somehow, and they were like, "Is this something you'd be interested in doing?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Because I've been wanting to do this thing. I have so many ideas. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. And they're like, "Wow, that's a lot, Eloy. Let's scale that back just a little bit, and we'll make it a little bit more accessible." But no, like I am so gung ho on this new initiative, and the fact that it's going to go over the course of weeks. We'll be able to break everything down. I'll make myself available and Andrew to answer any questions and to really just make sure that these people walk away with a firm foundation in game design. And the class is called the art of game crafting, which I thought was I liked that term, game crafting, because game design, you think math, but game crafting is a little bit more rounded because it's not just about the design of the mechanics, but it's also about setting elements and how those tie in, and how you can use different inspirations to make different things and all kinds of stuff. Oh God, I love this sort of thing. I can't wait for it. It's going to be in May. It's going to be in May, everybody. It's going to be great.
I would 100% believe that. But I'm really excited to see you as a teacher because we were talking before, and school was not your favorite when you were young.
No, it was not. And I said this before we started recording too, but like school for me was the place that I printed off character sheets, and then I had a typing class, and this is before there was no computer class, guys. There was typing class, But we did it on computers because that's how old I am. So we would go in and I would finish up my work really fast. And then I'd be like, I'd open up a new doc and then I'd start writing up all the stuff for the game that I was going to be running that weekend. And then I would hit print because I would be like, hey, I have to go to school on Friday because I have a game on Saturday, and I'm not even feeling that well. But yeah, I can't. I have to stay. I have to go to work. I have to go to school. I cannot stay home, even if I don't feel good, because I need to print these pages out. But yeah, I mean, and if anybody has any thought that the idea that like role playing games are not demonized or anything, well, guess what? My typing teacher was like, "You can't do that here in class. Doesn't that have to do with the devil?" And then I literally, like, me and my friends who we all game together, we like after class we stayed behind and we talked to the teacher and we explained it all. And like she was like, "Oh wow," because I had always heard different stuff, and we're like, "Yes, it has nothing to do with the devil. It's okay."
Not unless you wanted to.
Well, for us it didn't, but I'm not going, "Hey, if that's your flavor, go for it, people."
So, um, you are now kind of flipping the role. You went from reluctant student to thrilled teacher. What are you hoping to give people in this class? Like, what kind of experience are you hoping that people will come away with that will make even young you happy?
Well, I've been in the game now for, oh gosh, I think about 15 years now, something like that. And my main goal with even coming into game design, not necessarily game design, but when it came to publishing, obviously, was that I really wanted to try and give people a shot, because I did freelancing for so many years and it was hard to get, as a new writer, to get somebody to give you a shot. It's just like, don't bother trying to sign up for that horror game because they've already asked Ken Hite to come do it because he's an amazing horror writer. It's just like, yeah, but I'm good too. You just don't know it because come on now. But like, so one of my main goals was like on every book that I would come out with, I would have at least one or two new writers who had never written anything before or only a few things before, because I really wanted to try and build something that people hadn't seen. People hadn't heard these voices before. And within the context of the games and the game worlds and stuff that I would create the stuff and then they would write within them. It really kind of created a really fun engagement. And I've met a lot of my very, best friends through publishing, that I hired them to write a book. And I was like, damn, that was really good. Let's do more. And also, let's at the next con, let's go out for dinner. And it's like, and then it became like a friendship of sorts. But then of course there are those times where you hire somebody new and you're like, oh, there's a reason nobody's hired you. But so with that, I am also inviting some bad stuff too. But I would say on the whole, it's really, really good. So essentially, to get back to your question before I started rambling, um, I love the idea of people who have never done it before or are on the verge of doing it and they just need that little nudge. Like I am an RPG cheerleader. Like that's what I'm all about. I'm like, I'll hear people talk about a concept or an idea that they've had, and I'll be like, that should be a game. They'll be like, what? I'll be like, that should be a game. Go write it. And they'll be like, I don't know how to write a game. Just go write it and send it to me when you're done, and I'll tell you if it's good. So because I have so many ideas of my own. If I hear a cool game idea, I ain't got time to do it. Go make that game so I can play it. It's like I want to play that game. So I'm all about it. And funny enough, I've had a few people who have literally like said I would never have done game design had it not been Eloy at a convention, like pushing me to do it and like basically forcing me to do it. And I'll be like, yeah. And guess what? You're a great game designer now. And if I can play that little bit just to pressure somebody into doing what they know in their heart they want to do, and they are just kind of scared to do it, because it takes a lot to put your stuff out there as a creative of any kind. Like I do music, I do YouTube, I do gaming, I do a lot of different stuff, and every every facet of that creativity is very different. It appeals to a different crowd, and it's hard. It's hard to it's hard sometimes to put yourself out there. But at least with RPGs, um, you really do have. I mean, our communities are really, really good. So, like, way better than some of the other ones. I do some stuff in gaming, like video gaming, and that's just as toxic as it comes. But I'm not going to leave it because I love what I'm doing. But man, I have to shut down so many people. It's crazy. So anyway, the goal with all of this class, there I go. See, this is why I'm really good in a podcast format when there are no time limits. That's usually where I shine. Uh, but really, I want to give people a really firm foundation so that they are encouraged and have the confidence that is necessary for them to use those game design techniques to then go and create their own things. And again, it's mostly going to be game design for RPGs, but it's also kind of how could you utilize this in a staff meeting, or how could you utilize these skills at home, things like that. So, I mean, it really is going to be more expansive than, like I said, even I know at this point. Because I've just been designing for so long, and it's like gaming just comes so naturally to me. So why wouldn't I try to pass that on to in some way, especially when I'm asked by a university to come and like teach real people, like as opposed to all the mannequins I have in my attic.
Sound like a true teacher to me. So the other thing that's really interested me looking at your career to date is that I actually think teaching is a really natural next step for you because you seem like the sort of person who's always trying to throw the door open and bring more people into gaming. And that also goes all the way into is it your primary gaming system, the PIP system?
It's not my primary. I fancy myself a very good mechanics designer, which is why every game is either a brand new system or is a new iteration of a system that I already designed. Like, there's never a game that is just exactly the same as the one before it. But the PIP system was the one that I designed with new players and kids in mind. And the story goes that I had my 7-year-old who was interested in gaming, and what I always do is whenever anybody shows any kind of interest, I say, "What are you into?" Because I will run a game around that. I'm not going to be like, it's not like, "Oh, you want to play a game? Let's play Vampire," but I hate vampires. No, 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 you're going to love it. No, that's not the way to go. So, so my 7-year-old at the time, this is my 7-year-old 11 years ago when I designed it. But my 7-year-old was really into mermaids. So I designed a game called Mermaid Adventures, and it was just for us at first. But then I was like, let me put a little bit more work into this, get it ready. And then I was just like, bam, now parents can run this game for their kids too. And that's where the birth of the PIP system really came from, was just my kid wanted to play a mermaid game, and I looked on the internet and there were no mermaid games. So I made a mermaid game. And then I sold the mermaid game. So that's basically what happened, because nobody has a game like that. They still don't. There are still no mermaid games, and it's kind of like my ninja game. There are games where you can play ninjas, but there aren't really any other ninja games. Well, there has been since it came out, but it was kind of at the time the only one. Now there are more. But it was so fun when I had Mermaid Adventures first come out. I always tell people this because I brought it to Gen Con, and you have my first game, Apocalypse Prevention Inc., which is like, Hellboy, and it's like bloody fighting monsters and all that stuff. And then you have my second game, which was Ninja Crusade, which was like ninjas clashing and it's in the dark and all that stuff. And then you have Part-Time Gods, which was my third game, where that game is all about, modern day gods, and you're trying to, control the demons. And then I had like Mermaid Adventures as my fourth game. And I would literally have people go, that is the strangest trajectory of your career that I've ever seen. you know, because everything up to that was really, but honestly, what the PIP system has turned into is what's really cool, because it started with that. And I made another game called Infestation where you play bugs, because I like that as well. But since then, we came out with the Pip System core book. So now the core rules are all just in one book with a lot of like hints and examples of how you can take those and you can build your own stuff. And then we've been coming out with a Pip primer every quarter. We have over a dozen of them, but each one is a different theme. Like, here's how to add noir, here's how to add horror, here's how to add animal adventures, here's how to add dinosaurs, like, and now it all kind of works now within the same the same system and the same construct. So you could have, a bear, a talking bear hanging out with a dinosaur, hanging out with, a Cthulhu. You could do whatever you want now because all the rules are there. And it really has opened up the field for a lot of people who are afraid to GM, because the way that we structure any adventures for the Pip system guides a GM through the adventure and I feel a special way that I had never really seen in other RPGs. And so, it's really meant for that. But also, we make sure that all of the material is written at a certain level so that, it was funny. I'm going to tell the story again. It's crazy. But I remember when Mermaid Adventures was up for Best Kids Game at an award and it lost. And the game it lost to, I'm not going to say the name, I'm not going to rehash it, was definitely not a kids game, but it was a popular enough property. It was a licensed game that people just voted for it anyway. And the person got up on stage and said, "I can't wait for my kids to play this game with me." And and literally that year I had a 7-year-old, same age as my kid when I wrote it, come up and say, "This is my favorite book. I have read it from cover to back over and over again, and I've run it for my family." And I'm like, you can't tell me that game that no kid plays is better than my game that this 7-year-old is running for their family. It's like, come on now. So anyway, that's a little gloating and I still have a chip on my shoulder about that. It was several years ago and I just won't let it go. But that's to say that, yes, I love, 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 love inviting new people and, bringing up that next generation. I went to so many conventions where I was on panels about like kids and gaming. And I had always said like, well, you need to teach your kids gaming and you need to, bring them into the hobby early on. And the Pip system was really like, that was me solidifying it and saying, I'm not just saying it now. Like, this is how you do it. Use this, So that's where I come from. I'm always looking to be more inclusive with, more and more people. And I'll leave it there because I rambled for a while there.
No, I'm all about the ramble.
Don't get
So
me started. I'll talk forever.
okay, so what's really funny is that Beyond Solitaire has not been a podcast that has a ton of RPG stuff on it, except that this is like the season of it. So, um, we talked some about D&D. We talked some about
Yeah.
Powered by the Apocalypse as a system
Mm-hmm.
on, this season so far. Tim Hutchings talked about Thousand Year Old Vampire and like solo RPGs. What makes the PIP system in particular more accessible and more kid friendly? What
Right.
adaptations did you make to what people understand about RPGs to create that while also allowing for complexity?
Gotcha. Well, I mean, it harkens back partially to some of the stuff that I've said. So the way that we structure adventures guides the reader through it, makes it so that like running a game in the Pip system requires nothing. Like if you're running obviously one of the pre-generated adventures, but like you could literally run one of them and have no prep, just follow it along. And it structures it as, this is what's happening in the scene. Now you, who is the game guide, go ahead, ask for this type of role. And if they get this, tell them that this happens. It's like, it really kind of just walks them right through it. And again, the writing level, we make sure that the game is written at a certain level so that it is accessible to even somebody who is in the early stages of reading. That's a big deal. Not too many huge giant words, simple sentence structure, but not to the level where it seems like you're reading a kid's book, but to the level where somebody who is at least in the beginning stages of being able to read well can pick this book up and read it. So those two things right there is super duper important. And then obviously, themes, mermaids and bugs and stuff like that, obviously are very appealing to kids. But the main things that we do are the roles that we have. The system is very easily understood because it's d6s, and that's the easiest way to start a game. It was actually designed that way because everybody has d6s in their house. And what you'll do is you'll roll two different colored d6s, so that also allows you to be able to tell what's happening just visually. So the white ones, if there's good stuff on the white ones, that's good. If there's good stuff on the bad ones, that's bad. So good versus bad. And, the way that it just flows, it just makes it a super easy game to understand. It's all player facing, so like the GM doesn't roll anything. It's all player facing. It's all very simple, and it's designed that way to be modular. So it starts off with just these are the d6s. This is how you roll, and then you can start adding more complications to it. And the more that you understand how the mechanics all work, you can start adding in like magic, and you can start adding in different types of items and bonuses and all kinds of stuff into the game without needing all of that right up front. You could literally run a game where you just have some numbers on your sheet and you roll that many dice and call it a day. Like you could just do that. You could, and then, but of course, you could add the complications later on when they're like, okay, I get this. Is there more? You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of the primers and stuff are, because once you pick up the core book and you get it, you're like, what's the next thing? And if you're not into mermaids or bugs, which are our established settings, and we have a new one coming out soon called Kid's Guide to Monster Hunting, which is going to be really cool. It's like a Monster Squad-ish kind of game. So if you're not into those three things to buy the actual book for that, then you can pick up a primer. You'd be like, well, actually, I kind of wanted to run a noir type game. Well, go get the noir thing. I wanted to run a game about going to summer camp. We actually have a whole summer camp expansion on how you can run a game of Pip, but at a summer camp. So, it's a lot of fun. We get to play around with themes that other games don't. Like I said, summer camp and holidays. uh what's some others I'm trying to think. Time travel. There's so many different things that we have that for the pip system that just makes it so open, and you can run whatever you want out of it. It's obviously going to do what the pip system does, so I'm not going to say, I know some systems are like you can do anything. It's like, well, the pip system does this, and you can run these different things under that, but it can't do everything, because I'm never a proponent of that. I've been on panels before where people will be like, how do I get my D&D game to do this? And I go, don't play D&D, go play the other game. This game over here does that, and you don't have to try and fix anything. It just does that thing that you want to shoehorn into your existing game. But I'm also a system hopper, which I feel makes me even more qualified to teach game design. There's so many game designers out there that I have personally spoken with that have only played one or two games before they started designing their own games, and their game reflects their lack of experience with a ton of different games. Whereas I will read and play any game I can get my hands on, because not only do I just want to see how other people approach some of the same material and stuff that I do in my own games, but sometimes I'm always looking for like inspiration for the next thing. Because sometimes I'll read a rule and I'll be like, whoa, that's really cool the way they did that. I wonder what I could do if I was to have designed this. Oh, see, if I would have done it, I would have done this differently. And I probably would have done that differently as well. And what if I took it and I put it in this kind of theme, this kind of setting? Oh, well, then I'd have to change this and this to make it work that way. Oh, wow. I just designed a whole brand new game based on one mechanic that somebody wrote, like a sub mechanic that they wrote for a game over here. And I just created a brand new kind of core mechanic for a new game that I could write one day. And that's kind of how my brain works just generally. So I overthink everything.
That's not necessarily a bad thing at all. So you've designed a role playing system among many systems that's particularly accessible, and you also have spent a lot of time as a GM. So is it what kind of differences are there when you are running a game for adults versus children? And
Oh
what kind of
gosh.
insights into that have you developed over time?
What I will say is, so I feel like there's three different groups that you end up running into whenever you're running, or at least that I have. So there's kids who are primarily focused on the fun. Uh, there's adults who are there for fun, but a lot of them are there for like, fantasy fulfillment. And then there's the kind of player who's there to learn themselves. And that's not necessarily not kids, but most of that is the adults that are there to learn versus having fun. Whereas I will group kids. Most of them are just there to have fun. They're there to exploit things and have just a fun time. What I've learned though is that kids are they're interesting. Like they're very excited to play. The whole taking turns thing can come new, but I'm also a father of three. So I also have no problem running a table full of kids, because I'll just be like, hey, it's not your turn yet. Calm it down. Give me a second. Let's finish over here. Like I know how to handle kids. I say that sometimes I have had some kids cry at my table. It's okay. Um, Mostly, and honestly, it was because they rolled really, really well. So it was in a game that I was running. It was actually a summer camp game where they were all trying to get a phoenix feather, and this kid rolled really wearing the cutest little Pikachu costume, by the way. Rolled
Oh.
really super well. So I said, well, you rolled so well that you get a feather, and you scare the phoenix away. So the other people are going to have a harder time now getting their feather. So that gives you the advantage. And the kid just started bawling. He was just like, I didn't want to make it harder for anybody. I just wanted to get it. And I said, well, you know what?
Oh.
Instead, well, and then you just have to roll with the punches. I said, well, instead what happened is you made them run, but they ran right at the other people. So actually it'll be even easier for them to get it. And he was like, okay, okay. And I was like, okay, good. So we solved that. It's all good.
That's so
Um,
sweet.
it was such a sweet moment. That kid was so cute and sweet. Um, but that right there kind of tells you a little bit of the difference between running a kid's game and running an adult game. They really are yeah, they're kind of all about the teamwork and the friendship. And if they can have a little animal companion, oh my God, everybody wants to have an animal companion. That is just how these RPGs work. So when you start running for adults, they're a little bit more tactical. They're a
Yeah.
little bit more, they forget the fun of it. I've run the same adventure for adults versus kids, and the kids will be like, "Ooh, what if I go back here and I do this and I could kind of do that?" And I'm like, "Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. Yeah, let's do that." Whereas the adults, especially those who have been playing for a while, they'll be like, "I hit it." It's like, I mean, sure, you can punch it. The kids were like, "Ooh, let's find clever ways around it," or "I'm gonna roll charm to make it my friend instead of fighting it." Like that's a kid for you instead of the adults that are like, "I shoot my crossbow and I make sure that it hits him in the neck so that the blood will spill and then it will slip. The other fighters will slip on their blood." And I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess we can do that if you want to. I'm very much a yes GM. I always say you can always try for whatever you try to do. You can always try. Um, that also helps when you're running for kids. Don't say no. Like, don't be the GM that says no, you can't. Like I say, I'm kids or adults. I'm like, try. Let's try it out. Um, the third group of the adults who are there kind of to learn, that's the one that is kind of a current challenge for me that I've really been enjoying, because the fun is part of it, but they're there trying to learn. I've been doing some work with Geek Therapeutics, because they actually have their whole RPG course where they get psychologists and psychiatrists who want to sign up, and they get credits and like all kinds of stuff, so they can actually come and they can take this course and learn how to implement RPGs in their therapeutic sessions and stuff like that. So like that's been a really fun thing, is that I've been able to go and run some of my games for those folks. And those folks are not necessarily gamers. They're not necessarily there to have fun. They're there to learn what you have in what are you doing with this game that I can use logistically to help my patients. And like that's an amazing thing that I've been a part of in like I'd say like the last year, possibly year and a half, that I've been having a ball with, because you get some of these therapists who are like, oh my god, I'm seeing so many possibilities, and they're teaching me. Like I'm like, I designed the game, but I didn't understand that you could have used these rules that I created for these whole other purposes. Like it blows my mind every time I run it and I have conversations with these therapists. It's just crazy. But anyway, oh, wow, that was a long answer. So, with that in mind, running for adults versus kids, not as different as you would think, except for I see the kids actually end up being way more creative with their approaches, because adults end up being just really, especially if they are already gamers, they've already been trained by other games to, kill stuff and kill stuff and take what's on them. It's like that's what they've learned, and then they implement that. And in any of my games, not even just my kids games, but if you play any of my games, that's not necessarily the strategy you want to take, because I don't like those kind of games. So I don't run my games like that. So there you go.
I mean, it makes sense. So this actually leads back to the beginning of our conversation,
Yeah.
though. I mean, I hear what you're saying about, adults are a little more set in what they think a game should be. I think this is something I noticed as I teach high schoolers, I teach, students who are getting older.
Mm.
I find that the older my students get, the more anxious they are about making mistakes.
Mm.
And in some ways, I mean, all my students are creative and hilarious, as our projects today indicated. But I find that the more molded you are and the more anxious you are about getting it right, the less you're willing to let yourself run free. And I feel like the PIP system is the exact opposite of that. Like, to embrace it, you need to have a certain curiosity and a certain openness.
I would agree with that.
And then I guess my question is, so how do you incorporate that into a class? This is something I always think about, like, as a
Yeah.
teacher myself, right? And you're about to teach one.
Right. Well, and that's the kind of thing that I was saying before is that, I've never taught on a university level or anything like that, which is why it's really cool that Andrew's going to be there with me, and we're going to be there because he's actually a professor. But it's going to be really, really cool that we're going to be able to come into this class, and I'm going to be able to take my many, many years. Like I've been publishing and writing for, 15 years, but I've been gaming for probably double that. So I know quite a bit from both sides of the table. And well, I guess three sides of the table, I guess, because there's the player, then there's the GM, and then there's the person writing the game. Which, yes, the GM sometimes does that, like, with home ruling and adventure writing and whatnot. But a lot of it ends up being that those are like kind of the three aspects of what's at the table: the system itself and the game itself versus the players versus the GM. Unless it's a GM-less game, I'll stop. I'm sorry. But but how do we how do we implement that in a class? Honestly, depending upon how many people sign up, and we would love to have lots and lots of people sign up. Um, you know, it's if if it becomes a small intimate class, it becomes way easier. If it becomes a larger class, what that'll end up being is probably segmenting out and really just trying to teach the fundamentals. I think I'd said this before we started recording, is that I actually love being somebody's first game. I love somebody to have played one of my games first, or to come to my table and have me run a game for them, because I take special care of that person to make sure that they walk away with a good experience. And yes, I do that for everyone. But if I know that you're a new player, I will make sure that, like, because sometimes you run an adventure and you want to give everybody a chance to shine, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. But if I know you're a new player, I make sure you get a chance to shine. And honestly, I think that that's really what all of this is going to culminate in with the class. Is it's going to be me getting in there, having a plan, but you know that no plan goes past where it meets the players. That's just how it works. So I have a good plan. Again, me and Andrew are working on the syllabus. It's looking strong so far. But we know that the moment we start this, because this is the first of its kind of what we're doing here. So we're going to be able to do this. And, we'll probably make some mistakes along the way, but we will be able to learn from those. And then, like, the second session is going to be amazing. But no, honestly, I am just I'm so enthusiastic for this, and because this is a course that is I'm trying to remember the exact phrasing, but it's a non-credit bearing course. That means that anybody who's coming into it, it's not, oh, I have to do this for my degree. It's not algebra 3. It's not it's not one of those prerequisites. If you're coming into this, it's because you want to learn this. And honestly, if my knowledge can meet your desire to learn, oh, it's the perfect match there for this type of class. And I have so much under my belt that I would love to teach others. I've always found myself to be very much a cheerleader, as I said before, but the few times that I've had the opportunity to really fall into like a mentorship kind of role, uh, I love it so much because I love to be able to teach people and then see that they took what I told them and then they did the thing and then it worked. And then it's like, hey, that's awesome. I love it when it happens to me too. Like, I'm like, hey, I saw this lecture and they said that I should do this. And then I went and did it. And then what they said, what happened, that happened. And that's awesome. That's what you want. So I want to deliver that for whoever comes and takes the class, essentially.
Fantastic. So this has been super fun. In the spirit of further fun, what are you playing right now for your own enjoyment?
Oh gosh. Right now I'm playing a lot of Pokemon Legends Arceus, but at my table, what I've been playing a lot, honestly, what I've been playing a lot is my game Part-Time Gods. I've been doing a lot of play testing for the next book, which is the Book of Outsiders, which gives new rules on how you play non-god characters. So instead of playing, the god of the ocean, you get to play like that mermaid character. So instead of playing the god of storms, you get to play the storm giant. So you're not playing the gods, you're playing more the mythological creatures that surround the gods. And that has required a lot of playtesting to make sure that that stuff works, and that they're not OP, but that because you kind of don't want them to be stronger than the gods because that's just
Right.
how it is. But you want them to be more flexible, more useful than the gods, I guess, because the gods are like, I'm the god of water, so if it doesn't pertain to water, I can't do anything. But you want the other mythological creatures to kind of to have their own niche, and but also be a little bit more flexible in what they can deliver, so that it makes sense for, yes, in a one-on-one fight, that god would probably rip me to shreds, but I am a dryad, so don't come at me in a forest because I will mess you up.
I'm here for that. That sounds really awesome. And then where can you be found online?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at Third Eye Games. If you really just look up Third Eye Games anywhere, you'll find me, or you'll find there's a store called Third Eye Games, which is funny. But but Third Eye Games, the publishing company, that's me. You can also find me at my other publishing company, which is called New Agenda Publishing. We just recently released our first game out of that, which is called O-Run, which is an Afrocentric sci-fi game. Really amazing. You can also find me. Where else can you find me? I mean, Twitter and Facebook. I mean, those are the main ones. ThirdEyeGames.net, I guess I should say. If you type in .com, it's okay. It will direct you, but it is .net. That is the actual email or the actual URL. If you want to hear any of the music, I did mention that I make music as well. The name of my band is Strays of the World. You can go to straysoftheworldmusic.com for that. So yeah, I have a lot of places that you can find me. I won't even mention my YouTube stuff at this moment.
Just Google Eloy Lasanta and
Se-
find riches.
Seriously. And I'm the only one. There aren't any others. So if you look up Eloy Lasanta, you will find me. I have looked. There are no others. I am the only one with this name ever in history, apparently. Not Eloy.
Fantastic.
There's a lot of Eloys, but Eloy Lasanta, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one.
Fantastic. And don't forget, everybody, you can take a class with the one and only Eloy Lasanta.
Yeah, Central Michigan University and Gen Con. It's going to be amazing, y'all. You guys don't even understand.
And so those of you who listen probably know I can be found anywhere as Beyond Solitaire. Eloy, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a delightful conversation, and I'm
Thank
really looking
you.
forward to your class.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. It's going to be amazing.
Thanks so much to all y'all watching out there, all y'all listening. Ask a question, leave a comment, subscribe, and most of all, happy gaming.